If you are eating tofu or tempeh to lower your cholesterol, are you actually eating enough to make a difference? In this video, I'll translate the research into clear daily targets, then turn them into tofu and tempeh portions you can use at home or when eating out. Hi, I'm Chung, an accredited nutritionist with a master's in nutritional sciences, here to share with you practical and science-backed nutrition to help you lower your cholesterol and improve your heart health. Most cholesterol advice tells you what to cut, but it rarely tells you what to add. So if tofu and tempeh are what you are adding, how much is enough according to research? The magic of cholesterol lowering happens through two mechanisms that work together: the displacement or exclusion of cholesterol-raising foods and the inclusion of cholesterol-lowering foods. Let's first talk about the displacement effect. If you currently eat a significant amount of saturated fat in your diet, one of the biggest levers we can pull to lower cholesterol is to replace the saturated fat with polyunsaturated fats. Red meats tend to be higher in saturated fat, which is where the overarching advice of cutting red meats originates. When you eat less red meat, you need to replace it with something. That something could be pork, chicken, fish, or plant proteins including tofu and tempeh. The choice makes a difference since switching red meat for chicken will not lower cholesterol as much as if you replace red meats with soy foods that are high in polyunsaturated fats. This meta-analysis of 24 trials compared diets with varying ratios of polyunsaturated to saturated fat. It found that compared to diets with the lowest ratio, diets with the greatest amounts of saturated fat replaced by polyunsaturated fat lowered LDL cholesterol by 9.83 milligrams per deciliter. If your baseline LDL cholesterol was 160, this would represent about a 6% decrease. This displacement effect works in the same way if you replace butter, coconut oil, and palm oil that are high in saturated fat with canola oil or soybean oil that are high in polyunsaturated fat. Second, soy protein itself has an intrinsic cholesterol-lowering effect, including potential mechanisms that involve telling the liver to produce less cholesterol, as well as telling the liver to pull more LDL cholesterol from circulation. While researchers continue to work on the mechanisms, human trials including this meta-analysis of 35 studies showed that an average intake of 30 grams per day of soy protein from natural soy foods resulted in a reduction in LDL cholesterol of 11 milligrams per deciliter or 6% from baseline. So, what does eating enough of tofu or tempeh mean? The research consistently points to one number, that is 25 grams of soy protein per day. However, to achieve a more significant and sustained lowering of LDL, the Portfolio Diet recommends an intake of 50 grams per day of soy or plant protein, which can help to lower your LDL cholesterol by an average amount of between 5 to 10%. So, what does 25 to 50 grams of soy protein actually look like? Before I go into that, by comparing a few types of tofu you can find in the supermarket, if you are enjoying this video so far, help me hit the like, share and subscribe buttons and turn on the notifications. You could also check out this other video where I explain why soy protein might be the best protein for healthy aging. What looks like the same tofu can contain very different amounts of protein, which changes how much you need. To understand how to hit the 25 gram soy protein target each day, let's take a look at how much tofu and tempeh we'll need to eat realistically. One way to visualize this would be to see how much tofu and tempeh contains 10 grams of soy protein. These are common soy foods that you'll be able to find in a local supermarket in Singapore, and there'll be similar products wherever you live in the world. Just a note that I have no affiliations with any of these brands and I'm just using whatever was convenient for me to buy when I was at the supermarket. For tofu, there are usually 4 degrees of firmness, depending mainly on how much water is retained in the manufacturing process. The softest is usually some kind of silken tofu, followed by regular tofu, then pressed or firm tofu, and finally taoqua or extra firm tofu. We also have tempeh, and the one I got today is a frozen one I personally find easier to store. I also have the soy milk that I use every day, as well as some shelled edamame for comparison. Let's first compare the various types of tofu and tempeh and see how much of each we'll need to eat to get 10 grams of soy protein. Starting with silken tofu, to get 10 grams of soy protein, we'll need to eat about 190 grams of the tofu. For regular tofu, we'll also need to eat about 190 grams of it to get the same amount of soy protein. That might be initially surprising since we might expect silken tofu to contain more water and less protein, but in fact, the difference in texture is due to a different manufacturing process rather than a significant difference in water content. This is clearly different for firm or pressed tofu, which has a lower water content. To get 10 grams of soy protein, we'll only need to eat about 130 grams of firm tofu. In the same vein, for tau kwa or extra firm tofu, which has even less water, we'll need to eat only about 75 grams of it to get 10 grams of soy protein. Finally, what about tempeh? Since tempeh is fermented directly from whole soybeans, it has an even higher protein content, and we'll only need to eat about 50 grams of it to get 10 grams of soy protein. In case you're interested in learning about other nutrients and health effects of tofu versus tempeh, you could check out this video that I'll link to in the description as well. As can be seen from this comparison, there is a significant difference in terms of the amounts of the different types of tofu or tempeh that you need to eat. We can also look at it in this way. To get the same 10 grams of soy protein, you need to eat about 2/3 of a standard pack of silken or regular tofu, about half of a standard pack of firm tofu, 1/3 of just 1 square of tau kwa, and 1/6 of this 300 gram pack of tempeh. So, what might also be clear at this point is that a few small cubes of silken tofu in your miso soup or a tablespoon of crumpled tempeh on your salad may not be adding adequate amounts of soy protein to your diet to achieve meaningful reductions in your LDL cholesterol. Just as a comparison, what about soy milk and edamame? To get 10 grams of soy protein, you could either drink 1 cup or 240 ml of soy milk or have about 100 grams of shelled edamame. Now that we know the amounts of tofu and tempeh that contains 10 grams of soy protein, how could you realistically achieve 25 to 50 grams of soy protein each day? Before I go into that, it would be amazing if you could help me by sharing this video with someone who might be looking for ways to naturally lower their cholesterol. The simplest way to hit 25 grams of soy protein a day to lower cholesterol is to focus on just 2 things. First, start every morning with 1 cup or 240 ml of unsweetened soy milk. Breakfast is usually the meal that we have the most control over, and we'll want to maximize it to achieve your health goals as much as possible. You could drink the soy milk on its own or use it to soak your overnight oats and chia seeds. This would start off your day with 10.8 grams of soy protein before you even leave the house. Second, target to have half a square of tau kwa or extra firm tofu for either lunch or dinner. Most economy rice stores would have a braised dish that would include tau kwa. So order a serving of that and make sure it is at least the size of half your fist. And also make sure that it is replacing some kind of animal protein and that it is not an additional item on your plate on top of what you usually order. Half a square of tau kwa would provide 14.7 grams of soy protein. If you focus on doing just these 2 simple things every day, you would already be achieving 25.5 grams of soy protein. So start with this simple target and see if you can achieve it for at least 5 to 6 days every week. If you can do so consistently for 1 month, we can then move on to the next level to target 50 grams of soy protein. Before I share how you could do that, cholesterol-lowering food strategies like this are what I help my clients with in my private practice. If you've been struggling with high cholesterol and would also like some help on improving your heart health, click on the link in the description and sign up for a free strategy session. To achieve 50 grams of soy protein, we could add on 2 other simple habits each day. First, add on 100 grams of tempeh to lunch or dinner, which would be about 2/3 the size of your fist. If you are eating out, look for menus that serve tempeh and look for options that have simple marinades and not ones with thick sauce coatings. If you are cooking at home, air frying is an easy option, or pan fry the tempeh with 1 tablespoon of heart-healthy canola oil or soybean oil, and this would add 19 grams of soy protein to your day. Again, make sure that the tempeh is replacing some kind of animal protein that you usually eat. Second, bring along 100 grams of shelled edamame with you to work. 100 grams of shelled edamame would be about the size of your fist, and you could add them to your lunch plate or you could have it as a snack in the afternoon. The edamame would then add another 10.9 grams of soy protein. With these 2 additional habits, your soy protein intake would be 55.4 grams for the day. Was this deep dive into supermarket tofu and tempeh helpful to you? And is there a topic you'd like me to discuss in future videos? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, Check out these other videos where I explain how you could use various foods to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. See you in the next one.